Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another show of Insight Sports with Johanna-Rosalye, myself, and my amazing, beautiful co-star, co-host, PLR. How are you today?
I like co-star. I feel like I'm in a movie.
Isn't that right? I'm like, co-star, okay. Had that one, a little hit in there.
No. How are you?
I am amazing. I'm great. Ready to talk a little sport, or what we have of it, at least.
I know, huh? We'll take it.
Whatever we can take, right?
Yep.
Or whatever we can have, we'll take it, I should say.
Yeah, it's been
crazy. It's been, can you believe it's been 76 days since we last had sports?
Has it really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a long time.
Give or take maybe a day or so.
Give or take a minute?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah,
so that's not
crazy.
counting, Korean, the KBO, Korean baseball, or NASCAR, or anything like that. Granted.
You had me worried the way you said that at first. It's like, not including Koreans. Wait a second. Baseball. Ah, okay.
Right. Not counting the golf we had over the weekend. Didn't watch. Did you watch?
Actually, I did. It's pretty good.
I'm going to put that on replay later.
It was Tiger. Everyone watches Tiger.
I would have liked to watch. I was a little tied up with the summit I was doing, so unfortunately I did not have the opportunity. But I heard it was great.
Well, let's do this. We won't talk about personal stuff on Showtime, so we'll leave off the parts where you're all tied up.
Oh, jeez.
Keep this kid-friendly. And keep this very kid-friendly.
Oh, goodness. So moving on. So there's a possibility of the NBA making a return, possibly late July. Maybe words out there having it done in a Disney complex. Guidelines being set for players to return as early as early June. So there's been some things that are still up in the air, not fully concrete, but are we getting near seeing a return in the NBA, even if it's just playoffs?
I mean, I think we are. I mean, I'm not the happiest with it, but it's not my. I mean, it's not my money, but I think it'll come back. I almost think it has to come back if you really want to be honest. From what someone told me, the NHL and the NBA want to finish. And that's a big difference between baseball and football because since they never really started a season, it's not the same, whereas the NBA and the NHL are dead set on finishing what they started. And I think that may be the biggest difference. And one of the things that's really pushing the NBA to get through a season. So I think it'll be back for sure. Kind of worried about how they're going to do it, but I think it'll be back for sure.
Yeah, because we have a little bit of there was a little bit of take on how the NHL might return. I don't know, and it's interesting how they're going to do it, and maybe NBA follows something of a similar format with something along the same time. June 1 training. They're going to start training with the small groups. July 1 they're going to start their camps, and then doing 2 city hubs, similar to what MLB is thinking of doing, and then doing a 24-team playoff in September, October. Is that something that you probably see that the NBA can pull off something similar to the NHL?
I do. I don't think it'll be quite as many teams, as the NHL, because if you look at the NHL, by the time, so say the Blackhawks or the Coyotes were to win the Stanley Cup, they would have played 33 games. And I don't think that the NBA is going to do that. I think they're going to make it something a lot more short and sweet. We have stars like Damian Lillard saying that they're not going to play. They'll sit on the bench. They'll be there for their team, but they're not going to play. And so if they can't go for a playoff. So I think a lot of it has to do with how the team or how they're going to construct what happens. So if you have a team where you're going to be able to, go for the playoffs, then I think you get more guys playing, and maybe they do something with the regular season to wrap those final 5 games that they need to deliver. Or if they don't, then do they go right to the playoffs? I think that's what's really up for discussion now. But the matter of playing, I think that we know that's going to happen.
Yeah. I think, my opinion with the NBA, I think it's more feasible with the NBA returning, if they do make a return, not finish out the season, but do go ahead and go into the playoffs. Maybe have more teams in the playoffs, and do it that way.
Yeah, like I said, the only thing is if you add more teams to the playoffs, then the more teams, the more risk. And I don't think they really want to do that. I don't think they want to add more risk. Because the more teams you put in, the bigger risk factor you have. And I just don't see them doing that. So I think that's where the problem lies.
Right, which is kind of what MLB is facing now with trying to make a return to the regular season, finish spring training, do a small camp for spring training, and then go ahead and start the season, hopefully as early as July. It's the goal. We're just a few days away from, finding out, are we going to have a season? Are we not going to have a season? We already have the Astros and the Rays making a return to their practice facilities. And the talks are happening between owners and MLB, PA, and having, what's going to play out. We just keep having those constant alerts and what's happening, what's in talks, and the players. So the players going to take the risk, or they're going to be players that are going to, if they agree, but are some players even going to just sit out and not want to play because they don't want to risk it, or they can't, they don't want to be away from their families?
I think the problem with baseball has nothing to do with that as much as with money. And they can't agree. The owners can't keep their word and agree on what they promised the players. And the players aren't ready to go out there and play baseball. And I said this earlier, I think there's a common sense factor that people have to hit on. And I think it has to hit on what's being delivered to the fans as well, because we have people saying if baseball sits out because of money, then fans will never come back. Well, we know that's a lie, because fans will come back. But then you have two sides of this. You have the fans that always side with the owners, and they'll look at someone like a Mike Trout, who's scheduled to make $37 million, who would only get $5 million, and say, well, I'd play baseball for $5 million. There are people not working, yada, 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 yada. But they wouldn't go back to work if they were making $100,000 and has to take a pay cut to $30. So you have those people. But then you have the other people on the other side that are like, oh, don't play. It's a risk of your life. When we don't know if it is, we don't know if it isn't yet. I mean, that's the whole thing about this craziness that's going on. So baseball, what they should have done, they never should have mentioned the money thing. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the players aren't mentioning money anymore. You haven't heard another word. You haven't heard anything since Blake Snell said what he said, and Bryce Harper backed him up. So now it's the owners. You have the owner of the A's who came out and said he's not giving his stipend of $400 a day, $400 to his minor league guys which would cost him $1 million. Dude's worth $200 billion. So it's all about money, and that's a bad look for the owners. That looks terribly cheap. $1 million and you're worth $200 billion. That's like me telling you I can't afford $1 and I have 20, or 20 cents, excuse me, and I have, you have $20. Can I get a dime? Ooh, don't know if I can swing that dime. That's basically what he's saying. So baseball's going to be a lot more because it's all about the money, and it's unfair for people to put what's a risk for someone. You may feel like, not you, but you may feel like, I can go to Scottsdale, Arizona and party in a club, and I'm not worried about catching coronavirus. And so anybody that walks in with a mask, they're an idiot. And someone else may say, you know what, I'm going everywhere with my mask on, and if you go to Scottsdale and party with all those people around you, you're an idiot. Neither person is technically wrong. It's just you can't tell someone what their life is worth. And if Blake Snell says, okay, fine, I'll live up to my contract and pitch, I'll risk my life for what I feel is a risk of my life for $10 million, but I'm not going to risk it for one. That man has that right. So I think that's where the problem is happening right now.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you there, where that money is a big factor in it. And they shouldn't. I was surprised that they brought that up, because that's been what's been it's been the held up. If it weren't be for that, I think right now that they would have come to an agreement a lot sooner, and we would already see a plan for baseball and how it would unfold. And you nailed it. With just a player who owns for the year $30 million, MLB proposal is to be paid for that player to be paid just under $7 million. So yeah, you nailed it. With the risk that they're deciding to take, if they do decide to take that risk, it's very minimal to what they should be paying. And I don't blame them. So hope we'll just have to wait and see how it all unfolds from here. But it just seems that it's less of a likelihood that we'll see baseball making a return. And even if they don't play 180, 100, and I can't do math anymore. And end up playing the whole season. But is it possible just maybe it wouldn't be the first year we wouldn't see really baseball, but or NBA or football, or it's a different circumstance, of course. But maybe just with MLB, for instance, maybe just having some type of exhibition season. Would that be a possibility? Play some games better than no games at all, and still give the players, still go through the motions and still be active and have some type of fun and games and something for the fans at least. Would it be if they do an exhibition game? Or not have a World Series. Maybe have some type of a playoff tournament, a World Series alternative. Maybe that's a possibility. Something like a World Baseball Classic type of, scenario that we could possibly see, just to have some type of sports and getting the players active again. And also going back to the money thing, what would that mean also to player contracts?
Yeah, I just don't think they are.
In the future. And how are those contracts going to be affected for them?
I definitely don't think they're going to do that. Just because if you do that, then they may as well play. You know what I mean? They may as well play for real then. So I don't think they're going to do anything.
Right. So
they just
a thought. Even if they don't play the entire season, but just having something along those lines. But it's still a lot to be determined, and we can guess, we can go about, hey, what about this or what about that? But at the end of the day, it's not a decision, unfortunately. But
yeah,
the players do have a lot to say in it, and hopefully we get to see